He would make me give him, and he would give me as a child. He actually would perform on himself. My name is Cameron. I'm a survivor of child sexual abuse. Like a lot of people in this world, I come from a broken home. So my dad left, I think when I was around 2-ish. I come from a very dysfunctional family, especially from the dad's side of my family. There's a lot of trauma from my dad's side of the family. There's a lot of abuse. There's a lot of neglect. And my dad, he was very neglectful. So he was very, in the sense that he would very neglectful, he would berate me, undermine me, destroy my self-esteem anytime that I would express a level of independence. I remember I was kind of bouncing my leg to the rhythm of the beat in the car. I must have been about 7 or 8. And I remember saying something to him like, oh dad, I think I understand music. I feel like I could do music in the future. But he turned around and said to me, you're such a show off, you think you're good at everything, you're spoiled, and decided to kind of berate me and undermine me. And I remember being in the car journey home. At that point, he already struck a lot of fear in me anyway. It took a lot of confidence for me to even express myself to him in the car. So I remember when he said that, I was just silent. It could have been worse, but there were times where I would chat back and he would, grab me up and grab me by the throat and push me into this car and that. Like there was times where he would get aggressive or violent, but he would always choose other people over me. He would never back me, support me. He never contributed to anything from me growing up. My mum was getting the brunt of my anger, my confusion, my annoyance, my frustration. I was very aggressive growing up. I had a lot of anger issues growing up. Maybe that was a factor growing up. There were times where I've made my mum cry more times than there are stars in the sky. Like I've seen that woman cry so much, and it's because of me, my attitude, my aggression. Childhood was interesting, but again, I can't stress, there was a lot of great memories in my childhood. I was fortunate enough to have good friends in my childhood and primary school. I had good experiences here and there. My mum, she met someone who she would work with or whatever, and he kind of came into my life quite early. They never got married, but I'll just call him my stepdad. He had a son already. His son was about 5.5, 6 years older than me. I thought, wow, I've embraced the situation with open arms because I always wanted an older brother. I had an older brother, but he was never really there. I loved his son. We were fortunate enough to go on holidays together. So he'd bring his PS2 over or whatever. He'd bring his Nintendo DS over. A couple of years of really building that kind of brotherhood. I really loved him. I loved him being around and all these things. Eventually, what had happened was when he started getting into his kind of early teenage years, he naturally was, I don't know what was going on in his head at the time, but hormones started to change, or things started to be a lot more prominent in his mind. My memory's a bit blurry, but there was a grooming period, and it started with him introducing me to material. So I'm now seeing naked women and I'm getting an understanding of bodies. All these things, again, you're a child, you don't really know what you're looking at here, but you kind of, and then naturally he was trying to groom me into being open to that kind of thing. So it started to progress from material to he would make me and he would make me him. That started. So now I'm now being exposed to kind of a male anatomy here, and I'm not understanding the gravity of the situation, what it means, whether it's right or whether it's wrong. And I didn't really care because this is someone I trusted, this is my brother. The main thing at the forefront of my mind was my dad, my toxic relationship with my dad. I'm making my mum cry a lot. So this was like an escapism for me. And it turns out that it wasn't a healthy escapism and it was very traumatic. But after it then progressed into, so he would make me give him and he would give me as a child. He actually would perform on himself. I've never seen it before and I've never seen it afterwards. I've never seen it in 30 years. I've never seen what I saw him do. He would literally basically lean on his back and somehow he had the flexibility to perform it on himself. It was mad. There was one time then he then tried to progress into full-blown rape essentially, where we were upstairs we had 2 single beds. He attempted to push it in my behind or whatever. I remember the pain being so severe, I kind of jumped out my skin when he went in or whatever. And I remember we had this bathroom just next to my bedroom. The pain was severe, but mentally, I don't know this is wrong. And this is the key part here, because I'm so young, I'm 8, 9 years old. And even looking at the pictures that I sent into you guys, I can't believe how young I looked, man. I can't believe how young I was. I was like, damn. I think it probably continued up until about 10. When I got to about 13 years old and I went to school, secondary school this is, as I got older, very young, like young teenage years, I started to realize this guy, my stepbrother this is, he's just someone I wouldn't really associate with. You know, he's older than me, but he acts like a child. Like at this point he's 18, 19 or whatever. And I'm like, this guy ain't cool, man. This guy's weird, you know what I'm saying? So I'm still not understanding that was wrong, should I say. So I just naturally, I think around 13, 14, I just started to detach from him. But obviously at the same time, I'm learning about, I knew what was very young, and I was being intimate with women, not boys. So I've always been a straight heterosexual male, you know, outside of, I've never done anything intimate with a boy ever, a man ever, which is, you know, each to their own, but I haven't done anything with a man. As you start getting older and you're realizing what these things are, you start to realize kind of what happened. You're not necessarily thinking it's a, but you're still thinking, was that normal? Did other people experience that? Sadly, the repercussions were great, but I didn't realize at the time, because the repercussions were, I was extremely angry growing up. So obviously I'm already an angry child. Times that by 10, 15, 20 into my teenage years, times it by 50 into my early 20s, before it all kind of came to a head and I had like mental breakdowns and whatnot. But it's in like, I'm now very angry. I'm now very hostile. I'm getting into things that are like criminality or whatever, like low level, like petty crime and whatnot. I'm doing doing things that are like, I'm getting kind of violent, I'm getting into fights, I'm carrying weapons, like I'm very like angry, I'm hostile. I don't know why. At that age, 13, 14, 15, you're not thinking about trauma, how these things affect you, how they affect you long term, mental health. Bearing in mind, we come from a generation where mental health wasn't really spoken about until like kind of really recently. So it's like a lot of these buzzwords, autism, ADHD, a lot of this stuff didn't really, I mean, it always existed, but it wasn't so prominent like it was now. So you kind of just had to deal with these things. You know, I grew up on the mentality of men don't cry, men can't talk about your problems. That was normal. You know, you're soft if you do this, you're soft if you do that. Obviously that's BS now. Men should cry. I encourage men to be emotional, talk about your problems, all these things. I encourage it, I love it. But that's the mentality I'm growing up with. So it's kind of like, you're internalizing everything. Bearing in mind, I don't have a good relationship with my mum, despite her raising me. We don't know each other. You know, I was always out. I was off the porch doing what I wanted from young. She couldn't tell me what to do from young. My dad's already not around. So it's kind of like, I do what I want now. You know, I'm now a big man. You know, I'm not a big man, I'm a teenager, but I'm a big man in my mind. I suppose when I got into my later teens, that's when I started to realize, oh, that weren't right at all in the slightest. And now I'm questioning, like, not my sexuality, because as I said, I've never done anything with a man, but you start to think to yourself, well, if that happened, if I did that, does that make me gay? You know, and again, I'm not, gay people is absolutely, I love everyone, but I'm now talking about myself specifically. So I'm questioning things like that. And then, yeah, like, again, there's a lot of hostility. My identity issues were getting at the forefront. You know, I'm dealing with a lot of racism at this point as well. You know, growing up in Southeast London, racism was rife. You know, I remember getting called very harsh words from 8 years old, 9 years old. I didn't even know what this was. I thought, wait, what? Like, why are you what does this mean? And then people were explaining it to me and I thought, damn, oh, what? You can actually get called words for your skin. Oh, damn. Again, you start realizing what the world is. The world is a harsh place. So yeah, there was a lot of things kind of at the forefront where I was just such an angry person. You know, I was getting arrested a lot. I was on bail a lot. Luckily, I never went to jail or anything like that. I always used to get NFA, which stands for like no further action. So I used to think I was so smart and I was getting away with these things, you know. But I haven't had any problems with the law in decade plus at this point. I think no, probably but 10 years or whatever. So, you know, give or take a few little scuffles here and there, but as in like, that's not who I am. And I never really was that person. It was always just a culmination of trauma and kind of certain negative experiences that you go through that make you numb to the world, you know, like really numb to what it is. But as I said, while there was a lot of trauma going on behind the scenes, there were still wonderful experiences. You know, I had cool groups of friends that I'm going to parties with, are doing this, you know, got our money right and went on holidays together, and we would play football together. Like it was a very standard life in that sense. You know, I still did a lot of fun things and a lot of cool activities. Behind the scenes, there was just a lot of things that I was carrying that no one ever knew about. You know, I didn't want to speak to anyone about this. It was a lot easier to laugh it off, or no one even heard about any of this. Like, it was much easier to hear other people's stories. Let me be there for you. Tell me about your stuff, because I was always a person that people used to lean on and I would give advice to, and it's the reason why I started my YouTube channel, because I thought, you know what, some people actually value what I have to say, so let me see if I can make a career out of this. But I never ever thought I was ever going to tell my story to any of my friends, let alone on a platform like this, on my own platform, whatever, you know. I never saw that. I thought I was going to carry this to the grave because I just thought that's what you're meant to do. You know, the same way my dad, I've recently found out a lot about my dad's life, and he doesn't know I know about these things, but he clearly has the intent to carry it to the grave. It's not wise at all, because you end up just repeating the cycle rather than breaking the cycle. So what made me tell my story was basically the reason why I kind of couldn't take it to the grave anymore is because I realized that my past, it is truly defining who I am as like a person now. I really wanted to be understood. One of the things in my life, I've always been so misunderstood. Like, people think I'm this type of person, I'm not, or people think I'm this and it's that, but it's like I just wanted, especially my loved ones, I wanted them to actually understand not who I am, why I am the way I am. What happened was I was in Qatar in 2023 visiting my auntie, and I remember sitting there in Qatar, just chilling, beautiful sun's beating down. I was sitting with the memories, I was sitting with the thought. Aromas came back to me, smells, feelings, thoughts, emotions, everything came back, like flooding back. I remember bursting into tears. I was crying. I was blubbering, snot's coming out my nose, my lips all quivering, like it was literally mad. I was crying my eyes out here. That was the moment the penny dropped for me. I was like, I can't deal with this anymore, but I just knew if I was ever going to survive, if I was ever going to make it to 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, I would have to tell it, because it's literally, he's killing me, it's eating me alive, and I was literally just numbing. I was drinking so much. I really wanted to make it clear to my mum that, Mum, you were not to blame. It's not your fault. Unfortunately, the enemy was already in our, behind enemy lines or whatever. The enemy was already within our borders, was already inside. It's not like it wasn't any of my childminders. It wasn't a teacher. It wasn't one of my youth workers. It wasn't it was someone who was already inside the home. The reason why I kept it to myself for so long is, one, because I didn't want to tell it anyway, but two, I wanted to protect people. I wanted to protect my mum. I wanted to protect my mum's partner. I wanted to protect everyone, because I thought my whole livelihood, if and when this comes out, my whole life will completely flip upside down, because I know all that middle class lifestyle that I was enjoying, gone. I knew that instantly. I knew that we'd have to move. I knew that they'd break up. I knew that this would happen. And I thought, that's too much pressure. While it's not my fault that it happened, I mean, I started to accept that eventually. I was like, okay, it's not my fault that it happened, but it's still my fault if I tell people in a way. Like, it's still kind of like the repercussions. I've still got the power to impact the way my life goes. So I was like, But in the end, I said, F it. I was desperate to live in my reality. I was desperate to live in my truth, because I was living a lie. The house that we were in, it was a lie. The dynamic was a lie. Everything was a lie, because it wasn't based on the truth, essentially. I don't call it a breakdown. I call it a breakthrough. And I had like a breakthrough where I was just prepared to tell people. And my friend, my best friend at the time, she really encouraged me to do it. She was there for me. It's a shame, actually, because it's just a shame that someone who was such a pivotal part in my life, you did so much for me. She even helped me through rehab and all these things. So I think the biggest thing that made me heal was trusting the people that I love in this world with that information. I'm truly blessed and honored and grateful to have such a wonderful group of friends. My friendship group are really like renowned in like where we come from for being so close. The things that we do are so beautiful and wonderful, and we're always there for each other. And obviously it's a massive group of friends. Within that friendship group there's individual dynamics, but overall there's a massive community of friends. I love these people because when I met them when I was in sixth form, around 16 years old, they had no idea how much their mere presence, their mere existence saved my life, because I was dealing with so much at the time that I never told them. Just to be accepted by this beautiful group of friends and have these wonderful memories, they know now, but the only reason I'm alive, my purpose walking on this earth is, I've got a few purposes now, but my original purpose was them.